Nobody checks the price tag on your wrist. They check the dial, the case, the bracelet, and in many cases, that is enough. Between €80 and €1,500, there are watches that look far more expensive than they are. Some do it with design, some do it with finishing, some do it with pure silhouette. These are the 7 levels of expensive-looking affordable watches. Level 1, Casio Duro MDV 106, Pagani Design 007, Seiko SUP, solar tank, ranging from €50 to €150. At level 1, there is no movement story, no Swiss heritage, no brand that collectors argue about on forums at midnight. What there is shape. The Casio Duro MDV 106. A professional dive watch, silhouette borrowed directly from watches costing hundreds more. Unidirectional bezel, applied luminous indices, 200 meters of water resistance on a basic quartz movement. Retail price under €80. Watch reviewers have called it the best value diver in existence for over a decade. They are not wrong. The Pagani Design 007 arrives from the Chinese microbrand space with a ceramic bezel, a Miyota automatic movement, and a submariner profile accurate enough that photographs consistently confuse it for something far more expensive. The Seiko SUP solar tank line applies the same logic to dress watches, with rectangular Art Deco cases, Roman numerals, and sword hands that visually echo the Cartier tank at a fraction of the retail cost. Here's what most people get wrong at level 1. They assume that below a certain price, nothing looks serious. That is incorrect. The Casio Duro and the Pagani Design 07 both pass the glance test, the moment when someone across a table notices a watch and registers it as intentional. That moment does not cost money. It costs good design. But good design alone only gets you so far. At level 2, something changes underneath the dial, and that changes everything. Level 2, Orient Bambino, Seiko 5 Sports, Timex Marlin Automatic, ranging from €120 to €280. This is where mechanical watches enter the picture, and mechanical changes the conversation entirely. The Orient Bambino version 4 features a domed crystal that curves above the dial, the way vintage dress watches from the 1960s used to. A sunburst or gradient dial with applied indices and leaf hands, and an in-house automatic movement with around 40 hours of power reserve. Retail price under €200 in most markets. The Seiko 5 Sports adds a different dimension, with a day-date complication, 100 meters of water resistance, and the 4R36 automatic movement with a visible caseback. It has the wrist presence of a serious sports piece, in a package that regularly drops to the mid-200s on discount. The Timex Marlin Automatic rounds out this level with something more restrained, a vintage-inspired 40mm case, a Miyota movement, a domed crystal, and a dial layout that quiet observers compare to mid-century Omega and Longines dress pieces. Here is what most people get wrong at level 2. They treat these as starter watches, things to own before something better arrives. They are not. The combination of mechanical movement, domed crystal, and sunburst finishing at this price produces a watch that looks genuinely elevated in every wrist photo. These are not stepping stones. For many people, they are the destination. At level 3, the silhouette itself becomes the statement, and it borrows from the most recognizable shapes in modern watchmaking. Level 3, Citizen Suyosa, Brumetric, Q Timex, ranging from €150 to €350. In 2022, Citizen released the Suyosa Automatic. It has a smooth integrated style bracelet, a minimalist dial with no date window and no clutter. The case height is so low the watch practically disappears on the wrist, and bright, confident dial colors, turquoise, green, yellow, that the watch press immediately compared it to the Rolex Oyster Perpetual, a watch that retails at over €5,000. The Suyosa retails at around €250. The Brumetric arrives from the micro-brand world with a 1970s television case geometry, retro dial color blocking, a sapphire crystal, and an integrated bracelet whose tolerances reviewers describe as better than several watches at twice the price. The Q Timex reissues add rotating bezels and period-correct bracelets to quartz movements, and produce a wrist photo that reads unmistakably as vintage luxury steel. Here's what most people get wrong at level 3. They dismiss the integrated bracelet trend as fashion. It is not fashion. It is the single strongest visual signal of modern luxury watchmaking. The unbroken line from case to wrist, and these watches execute it with genuine conviction. The difference between level 3 and level 4 is the spec sheet. The spec sheet closes the gap with watches costing 3 times as much. Level 4, Skyrim Mod Diver and Citizen Pro Master MY159, ranging from €250 to €500. This is the spec sheet level, the level where affordable watches stop competing on looks alone and start competing on paper. The Skyrim Mod Submariner retails around €280. It carries a ceramic bezel, sapphire crystal, and a genuine Seiko automatic movement, the same components you find in watches retailing at €600 to €800 from mainstream brands. The design references the Rolex Submariner closely enough that the wrist presence reads as a serious dive watch before anyone checks the crown. The Citizen Pro Master NY159 operates differently. ISO certified to 200 meters, screw-down crown, bold luminous indices, and a bracelet with real heft on the wrist. Reviews consistently compare its finishing and water resistance rating to Swiss divers costing 3 to 4 times as much. Here's what most people get wrong at level 4. They focus on what these watches are referencing and miss what they are actually delivering. Ceramic, sapphire, and certified water resistance used to be expensive features. They are no longer. The engineering cost has dropped. The visual payoff has not. At level 5, the spec sheet gets joined by something else: Swiss heritage. That combination is harder to replicate than it sounds. Level 5, Hamilton Khaki Field and Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80, ranging from €400 to €700. At level 5, Swiss heritage enters the conversation, and with it, a different kind of expensive looking. The Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80 Silicium has a sunburst dial and applied indices. It uses a clean, restrained case shape that reviewers have compared directly to the Omega Aquaterra, a watch retailing at €4,000. The silicon balance spring and the 80-hour power reserve are engineering features rarely seen below €1,000. The finishing is conservative, but precise. The overall effect is that of a serious Swiss dress watch, with nothing out of place. The Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic adds a different register, military utility repackaged as quiet authority. It has a matte dial, Arabic numerals, and a railroad minute track. The H10 movement delivers an 80-hour power reserve. The watch communicates competence rather than opulence, which is its own version of expensive looking. Here is what most people get wrong about level 5. They think Swiss made is only about specs. At this price, it is also about the logo. A Tissot or Hamilton on the dial reads as a known quantity to a casual observer in a way that a micro brand does not. That brand recognition is a visual shortcut, and it works. Once you understand that, level 6 makes a different kind of sense, because at level 6, the shortcut is replaced by something far more interesting. Level 6, Baltic MR01 and Seiko Presage Cocktail Time, ranging from €400 to €700. Some watches do not look expensive because of their shape. They look expensive because of what happens when light hits the dial. The Seiko Presage Cocktail Time series is the clearest example of this in affordable watchmaking. Deep gradient dials borrow textures from Japanese lacquerware and from glasswork. Sunburst finishes shift from dark navy to electric blue depending on the angle. Applied indices cast actual shadows across the surface. And underneath, a genuine automatic movement is visible through the display case back. This is where casual observers stop asking questions. The dial looks like something from a Longines or an Omega dress piece. The movement story is real. The price is €300 to €500 depending on the reference. The Baltic MR01 sits beside it with something more deliberate, a micro-rotor automatic movement, a sector dial layout that references mid-century Swiss elegance, and a finishing level that enthusiasts describe as punching comfortably into the 1,000-plus category. Here is what most people get wrong at level 6. They think dial complexity is a luxury feature reserved for expensive watches. It is not. It is a craft decision, and a handful of brands at this price have made it their entire identity. The result is a watch that wins not because it references something famous, but because it is genuinely beautiful on its own terms. Level 7 is where all of it comes together. The bracelet, the dial, the movement, and the design language combine in a single package that casual observers will simply assume cost far more than it did. Level 7. Tissot PRX Powermatic 80 and Christopher Ward. The 12. Ranging from 600 to 1,100 euros. This is the level where affordable watches stop being a compromise and start being a statement. The Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. An integrated bracelet that flows from case to wrist without a single visible seam. A patterned dial with depth that catches light differently depending on the angle. A slim profile that sits low on the wrist, the way watches costing 5 times as much are supposed to be. And inside, the Powermatic 80 movement. 80 hours of power reserve. Swiss-made. In a watch that regularly retails under 700 euros. Next to it sits the Christopher Ward, the 12. Precision machined integrated bracelet. Brushed and polished case facets that take real tooling to execute. A geometry that reviewers have directly compared to the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. A watch that retails at 25,000 euros and up. Here is what most people get wrong about level 7. They assume integrated bracelet design at this level of execution is luxury-only territory. It is not. It is an engineering commitment, and once a brand makes it at this price, the visual result is almost indistinguishable from the real thing on a wrist. This is where the illusion becomes complete. Not because these watches are pretending to be something they are not, but because the design decisions are genuinely correct. The proportions are right. The finishing is right. The wrist presence is right. The only thing that is wrong is the price, and that is entirely in your favor. The sweet spot is levels 3 through 5. That is where finishing, movement quality, and visual impact align without serious money required. Like and subscribe for more.